So, one of the biggest things that I know that we get in our office from current clients, potential clients, are what is the government doing right now to ensure that people can depend on their Social Security check to be there for either A, when they need it, or B, for it to continue to be there if they're already drawing on it. All right, folks. Well, welcome back to the Here We Grow radio show. I am your host, Michael Foguth of the Foguth Financial Group. And Foguth Financial is a proud sponsor of the Here We Grow show here. And I want to remind each and every single one of you, if you're, listening on your morning commute, if you're catching your favorite cup of coffee, or if you're catching us on replay, this show and every show is available on your favorite podcast platform. May it be Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, whatever it is, we're available. All you have to do is like and subscribe our channel, and each and every show every week will be automatically downloaded and sent to you. So one last note I have before we jump into today's show, because today's show is an important one that I want to jump right in and just kind of go right at it, but I'm going to lead into it a little bit here. But the last note is if you have questions, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions from today's show, just like we did the past 2 weeks, we were talking about taxes and inflation. And today's show, we're going to be talking about Social Security, which those three things, and I'll introduce our guest here in a minute, we're bringing on the best of the best when it comes to these topics, because we want to be able to drive to all of our listeners the information so you can make an informed decision of how, when, and what you should be doing today, tomorrow, and in the future. So with that being said, if you have questions, please email our office, go to our website, let us know how we can maybe help you one-on-one when things pop up from today's recording or today's show, if you will. So today, again, like I said, we are going to be talking about Social Security and planning for your retirement in Social Security with, again, the guru of all gurus when it comes to Social Security, Miss Mary Beth Franklin. And Mary Beth, thank you again for being back on the show. But before I kind of turn it over to you, I have a statistic here that says over 6 billion with a B search results with one of the most qualified people around. I mean, that's you when we're talking about Social Security. Mary Beth, so welcome to the show. And if you can, maybe just give the audience a brief background of where your expertise in Social Security is coming from.
Sure, Mike. Thanks again for inviting me to be a guest. Social Security is such an important topic for people who are in or near retirement. And I've been writing about money issues for more than 40 years, and specifically Social Security. Way back in the dark ages when I was a Capitol Hill reporter in the 1980s, you didn't know they hired 12-year-olds, did you?
I did not know that.
Well, I actually covered the Social Security reforms back then. And fast forward a few decades, I've been writing about ways to maximize your Social Security benefits since about 2008, when I was the tax and retirement editor at Kiplinger's Personal Finance magazine. Now I focus on teaching financial advisors like you and your peers of how to help their clients get the most out of Social Security.
That's awesome. And I know, gosh, it's probably, I was going to say last year, but it for sure was not last year. It was a few years ago, right? You were here in our office and doing a couple of our events with us and educating the public about what's going on in Social Security. So, one of the biggest things that I know that we get in our office from current clients, potential clients, are what is the government doing right now to ensure that people can depend on their Social Security check to be there for either A, when they need it, or B, for it to continue to be there if they're already drawing on it?
Well, you have to understand what funds Social Security. Primarily, it comes through those FICA payroll taxes that come out of your paycheck each week or each month, however you're paid. That money pays the benefits of today's retirees. So it's not like your FICA tax goes into your own private little Social Security account. That doesn't exist. You're paying your parents and grandparents' Social Security benefits right now. Now, at some point in the future, over the next 10 years, unless Congress takes action, there is a forecast shortfall. Doesn't mean Social Security is going broke. But if Congress did nothing between now and about 2034, there would be enough money from ongoing FICA taxes to pay about 75% of promised benefits. Now, nobody is going to be satisfied with taking a 25% haircut, which means Congress has to step in and tweak things a bit like it has done in the past. whether it tweaks how those taxes are levied, at what the maximum wage is subject to those taxes, or maybe making benefits changes going forward. Congress very seldom changes things that would affect current or near retirees.
Well, thank you for saying that, because that's probably one of the biggest things that I like to convey to people. And I'd love your opinion on this. If somebody's already retired, they're already in their 60s. I mean, that's not the person you're talking to, right? It's not like, hey, your benefits getting sliced next year. Well, who do you foresee that potential change coming to?
Well, I would say today's toddlers, the diaper set, may have to wait until maybe 70 to reach their full retirement age.
Right.
But they're probably going to live to 120, so they'll get used to it. I don't think that today's retirees really need to worry. Now, mind you, the way current law is written is if there's not enough payroll taxes, Social Security simply can't pay out more than it has. But Congress also realizes how important and how popular Social Security is among Americans. And more importantly, older people tend to vote more than younger people. So I can feel very confident that Congress will step in between now and 2034 to do whatever is necessary to make sure there are no benefit cuts.
Right. And I think that's an important one to talk about, because most people may or may not realize this. They've already had benefit cuts. I mean, right? When it first rolled out, it was at 65 was your full retirement age, right? Correct. So, hey, we promise you 100% payout at age 65. Then that changes to 66, and now we're up to 67. So again, to your point, I think you hit the nail right on the head. They're going to make changes, right? They want to keep the solvency ratio where they're comfortable and where, the American public is comfortable. But it's important that people understand that we've already experienced these changes. They're going to give, like you said, a 2-year-old an opportunity of 60 years to make an adjustment. They're not going to give a 60-year-old, 2 weeks to make an adjustment, more than likely, right?
To put this in perspective, the last major Social Security reform was in 1983. Okay, that's almost 40 years ago. That law is not fully implemented yet, because the final piece of that was that people born in 1960 or later, their full retirement age would be 67. That happens in 2027. That's a long time to get used to changes, as opposed to some of the more recent changes that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, where one strategy had 6 months notice that it was going away, and another one was being phased in over 4 years. Those types of changes are harder to adjust to.
Well, you bring up a good point. We're going to talk about that in segment 2. So folks, you're not going to want to miss segment 2, because there are so many changes in it. And I remember, heck, even when I started in this business, Social Security planning was a lot easier. And there was this, you could pay back for however long that you wanted, and all these wild and crazy things, spousal benefits and file and suspend, and just great stuff from a financial planning point of view that feel like they come and go almost on like a yearly basis or something. So, before we get into that, I know that you have information out there for people. What's the best way for them to get that information that you're able to provide? Is it through your writings, your books? What would you say is the best way for someone to get their hands on something to educate themselves?
Well, I write a weekly column for something called Investment News. And every year I update my ebook, which is called Maximizing Your Social Security Retirement Benefits. And that's available for sale. You download it at maximizesocialsecuritybenefits.com.
So listen, folks, we teased about this. I promise you we're going to take a quick break. And when we come right back, we are going to go over some of the recent changes that have impacted and affected pretty much all married couples, divorced couples, and, like we were talking about offline, survivors, right? And some of those things. So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back on the Here We Grow show.
When times get tough, who do you have on your team? At Foguth Financial Group, we win by helping you achieve the retirement you've always dreamed of. Clients who work with Foguth Financial Group know they are backed by a solid, experienced, and winning team. It's time to choose your team. Choose the team from Foguth Financial Group, a team of champions. Foguth Financial Group, building our team to be a part of your team.
All right, folks. Well, welcome back to the Here We Grow radio show. I am your host, Michael Foguth, and our guest today is Mrs. Mary Beth Franklin, who is the guru, the expert of the experts, somebody that myself as an advisor and all advisors, if we have that hard question, like, man, I don't know if we know this answer, we're coming to you because you're the best when it comes to these things. So, Mary Beth, with that being said, right before the break, we were teasing people with the changes that have impacted Social Security claiming in the rules. Will you give us maybe a Cliff Notes version or a version of what people can expect or be on the lookout for changes that are taking place for, and again, I'll let you go into it, but married couples, divorced spouses, and survivors?
Right. So here is the one date that you should write down. It's the only one that matters. January 1st, 1954. If you were born on or before that date, meaning you'd be turning 68 or older this year in 2021, you may have an ability to maximize your lifetime benefits if you're either currently married or you are divorced after being married at least 10 years. Great strategies that I'll explain in a second. People who are born after that date, including me, can't do anything fancy. Whenever someone who was born after January 1st, 1954, whenever you file for your Social Security benefits, whether you're single, married, divorced, you will be paid the highest benefit to which you are entitled at that time based on your age. You don't get to choose, hey, I just want to claim spousal benefits. I want to let my own retirement benefits keep growing. Basically, it's a straightforward file for benefits. That's what you'll get depending on your age. So now let's talk about that creative claiming strategy that's available for people born before January 1st, 1954. If you're married, let's assume a wife goes ahead and claims her Social Security benefits, and her husband, let's say, was born in 1953. He turned 68 this year. Because his wife has already filed for her benefit, and because he's born before that magic cutoff birth date, he is able to say to Social Security, don't pay me my Social Security benefits. Let them keep growing by 8% a year up until age 70. But in the meantime, I want to file what is called a restricted claim for spousal benefits. That means pay me half of my wife or half of my husband's full retirement age benefits while my own benefits continue to grow. It's a great strategy for married couples because you have to look at how do you maximize benefits over your lifetime. And for married couples, you have one spouse, preferably the one with the bigger benefit, wait as long as up until age 70 to maximize those retirement benefits. Then you can have the other one claim early if you want, bring some cash into the households. And what you've done here is not only maximize the retirement benefit while they're both alive, but if one spouse dies first, the bigger benefit continues as a survivor benefit. And that's what is so important for married people to understand.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's you're turning that Social Security on for the household, right?
Correct.
It's not just for that one person. Like, well, I'm going to wait until I'm 70 because it's best for, no, it's best for the household, right? Because we talk about longevity. You know, I know you kind of said it in passing. I caught what you said. I mean, it's not going to be uncommon for a toddler to have a life expectancy of 100 years old, right?
Correct.
People are living longer, right? So the likelihood and the law of probability of somebody living past that break-even point, right, is very high now today with technology and medicine, all these advances. So I think you bring up a phenomenal point there with the married couples. Divorced spouses, right? Is that kind of the same rule then, as long as they've been married for 10 years?
Well, the key is to be what is considered an eligible divorce spouse. In other words, I might be able to collect on my ex's earnings record. I have to be married at least 10 years. So there's got to be at least a decade between I do and I don't. That's key. And I have to be currently unmarried. Maybe I got married in between and that subsequent marriage then. I'm still currently unmarried. And the third piece of that is I must be born before January 1st, 1954. If I am, as an eligible divorce spouse, I can use this same strategy. Hey, don't pay me my benefits. Let them keep growing. In the meantime, let me collect on my ex's earnings record. He or she doesn't even need to know about it.
Right.
Social Security takes care of the details. It does not take anything away from that former spouse or even if your ex remarried, doesn't affect his new family's benefits.
And that's a great point. That's a phenomenal point. Now, I have a question on that one. What if you were married for 10 years? Do you have the opportunity of collecting the greater of the two, of your ex-spouse or your own, at a certain age? Maybe not that restricted benefit, but do you have the option if you were married for at least 10 years? Is there a birth date taken into place there?
It's that same birth date, January 1st, 1954. If you're born on or before that date, you have the right. You'd be now turning 68 or older this year. If you hadn't claimed yet, you could say, I want to restrict my claim to spousal benefits only. Unfortunately, if you're born after that date, you can't do anything fancy while your ex is still alive. But here is the great news for a lot of divorced spouses. Many of them do not realize that they may be entitled to survivor benefits if their ex dies first. And here's an important math lesson. A spousal benefit while your current or ex-spouse is alive is worth up to 50% of that worker's benefit. A survivor benefit after your current or ex-spouse dies is worth 100% of what that person was collecting at time of death. So your ex-spouse is worth twice as much dead than alive. But a lot of your divorce clients probably knew that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, and that's a big one. I know when we're doing planning, because we take the holistic approach here in our office, because it's Social Security, the potential of a pension versus a buyout versus using other income, husband, wife, right? Longevity, health, all of these things come into play. So look, a couple more questions before we go into break. I want to ask you things of what should, if a listener out there right now is listening, they have not claimed a benefit yet, right? Married, unmarried, whatever. What should they be thinking about or looking at prior to making a claim or to filing for their Social Security benefits?
Well, they should realize that Social Security is an extremely valuable benefit because it will pay them the rest of their lives, no matter how long they live. And it's one of the few benefits that cost of living adjusted. Even a private pension, if you're lucky to have that, is usually a flat monthly rate. Social Security in most years increases to keep up with the cost of living. So you should say, wow, this is a very valuable benefit. How does it fit into my overall retirement income plan? What are my other sources of income? And the longer I wait up until age 70, the bigger my benefit will be. What can I do if it works in my personal circumstance to delay until 70? Maybe it means I tap my IRA or my 401k sooner as a way to effectively buy myself a bigger Social Security benefit. Because here's the key. We have been living in a virtually zero interest rate environment for about a decade. Even though we're talking about interest rates may start creeping up, the government is giving us 8% per year for every year we're willing to delay between full retirement age and 70. Where else can you get 8% a year guaranteed?
And that's exactly right. So listen, folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to take one more quick break. And then when we come back, I want to jump into, I'm going to call it rapid fire, Mary Beth, if you're okay with that. And I'm going to fire out some questions to you, some quick hitters, because there's a lot of people out there right now that are wondering what to do. And you know this better than anybody. There's a lot of different ways that these can be understood and impacted in their retirement. So folks, don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
When times get tough, who do you have on your team? At Foguth Financial Group, we win by helping you achieve the retirement you've always dreamed of. Clients who work with Foguth Financial Group know they are backed by a solid, experienced, and winning team. It's time to choose your team. Choose the team from Foguth Financial Group, a team of champions. Foguth Financial Group, building our team to be a part of your team.
All right, folks. Well, welcome back to the Here We Grow show. I am your host, Michael Foguth, and our guest again is the Social Security benefit, the CFP. Again, we didn't even talk about that, Mary Beth. I know that's something that's a big deal. CFP, Social Security income planning benefits, and really have been around since you were, 12 years old when you started on Capitol Hill, right?
About then, yeah.
Hey, you were paying into Social Security early, I think is what you're doing, right? Your highest earning 35 years, is that right? 35 years?
Yep. I got my 35 years in plus.
All right. Well, let's start with that, just for people out there listening. We're going to do a quick rapid fire here in this segment where I'm going to throw out some questions. We'll go back and forth, but my goal is to get out some of the questions that we get in from time to time in our office. So let's start with I think, the beginning of this. How do they calculate someone's Social Security benefit? Because I'll get someone come in and be like, well, I made a lot of money in my last 5 years, so I got to be maxing this thing out. That's not how it works, right?
Correct. Social Security looks at your average lifetime earnings, and they look at that over your top 35 years of earnings. Doesn't matter when you earn them, it's the top 35. And then they add them together and divide them by 35 years and come up with their average lifetime annual earning. They apply a formula to that. Now, each year we pay FICA payroll taxes up to a certain dollar amount. This year it's about $142,000. So if you make $500,000 a year, that excess money doesn't count towards your future Social Security benefit. It only goes up to the taxable wage base each year. And so people who are high earners over their entire lifetime are probably going to get a maximum benefit, which if they retired this year at full retirement age would be a little over $3,000 a month, compared to the average benefit of about $1,500 a month. Right. On the flip side, if maybe you only work 20 years, Social Security is still looking at those top 35 years, which means you have 15 years of zeros in your earning record. And when we average that out, it means you're going to have a very low average annual income and consequently a lower Social Security benefit. But say if you're married, if you have your own retirement benefit and a benefit as a spouse, whichever is higher is what you're going to get in most cases.
Right. And that's a key. I mean, there's a lot of different ways of looking at that, but I wanted to point that out because it's the highest earning 35 years. And I always encourage people, go back and look, right? I mean, they used to mail them, I call them the green sheets, right? You got to go online and create an account on SSA.gov, all that fun stuff. But I've seen a lot of errors come through my doors, right? Where there's a random zero where it just didn't get reported. They're like, wait, how did I work that year? What happened? So I always encourage our clients to go back, just confirm. Now, you might not remember exactly how much money you made in, let's say, 1992, right? If your exact, but if there's a zero, that's a red flag to me that probably needs to be adjusted. Is there any other common errors?
Should check their earnings record every year, even just go on once a year. And if you see anything that looks weird, wow, I made a lot more than that, or why is there a zero? You want to contact your employer to check out your payroll records or contact Social Security, because your future benefits are based on those reported earnings. If they're reported incorrectly, it could reduce your future benefits.
Yeah, and then that's exactly it. So great call. Look at those annually, folks. It's a big deal out there. Here's one I get all the time. I mean, this is probably a daily occurrence. So I'm going to give you the tough one. When should I start taking Social Security?
Well, again, personal decision, but you have to realize if you claim benefits before your full retirement age, they're going to be permanently reduced for the rest of your life. They don't magically pop up when you get to 66 or 67. If you choose to collect your benefits early, you are choosing to get a smaller monthly benefit for the rest of your life. Now, that may be appropriate in your circumstance, but I do warn people who decide to claim early. A lot of times they're afraid that the system's going to run out of money and I'm going to grab it while I can. And I say, choosing to claim Social Security benefits early out of fear is not a good reason. That's like selling your stock portfolio in a down market because you're scared. All you have guaranteed is you have locked in a loss. The other thing I tell people is that if you claim benefits before your full retirement age and continue to work, now this is the key, earnings from a job or self-employment income, you are now going to be subject to earnings restrictions if you claim benefits early and make, quote, too much money, which this year is about $19,000 a year. So my number one rule is if you plan to keep working, simply don't claim benefits before your full retirement age.
It's exactly right. So, and again, let's reinforce that statement because I say the same thing. Why? I'm going to throw you a softball here. Why should I not claim benefits before my full retirement age and still work? What is the penalty for that?
You're going to lose some or all of your benefits. Now, you do eventually get them back. When you get to your full retirement age, any benefits you have forfeited due to excess earnings will come back to you in the form of larger monthly benefits going forward. But frankly, it's an accounting nightmare. Maybe you claimed early and you're going to tell Social Security, nah, I'm not going to work, when in fact you really do. Well, guess what? Social Security and the IRS eventually catch up with each other. And if it turns out they paid you too much money, they're going to ask for it back all at once. And when you get a letter that says, hey, you owe us $33,000, please write a check right now, that can be a really bad day.
A really bad one. Now, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but tell people that are listening right now, and they may be freaking out because they claimed too early. What if somebody takes benefits too early? Can they make a change?
Yes, there are two do-over opportunities. The first one is within 12 months of first claiming. You can withdraw your application for benefits, but there's a catch. You have to pay everything back. So if you're going to withdraw your application, you want to do it sooner rather than later. The second opportunity is now you have to wait until you reach your full retirement age. At that point, you can suspend your benefits. The good news is you don't pay anything back. The bad news is those checks you've been getting stop. But the reason you may want to suspend your benefits is now those benefits start earning delayed retirement credits of 8% a year. And your benefits will automatically turn on again at 70 or sooner if you want to. And for any of that period where you were not receiving benefits during the suspension, you were earning an extra 8% a year. So it's a way of creating a bigger benefit in the future.
And does somebody have to wait the entire year, or could they do it like 6 months?
They can do it at any point. When it comes to withdrawing the application and paying it back, you have to do it within the first 12 months of claiming. The ability to stop your benefits, to suspend them and not pay anything back, that you have to wait until you are at least full retirement age. But you can do that. You can suspend your benefits anytime between full retirement age and age 70.
All right, here's the last question. I think it's going to be the best question because everybody wants to know this. How can a listener right now maximize their Social Security?
I think they should talk to somebody like you, Mike, as part of their retirement income plan. How does it fit my overall plan? If I am going to benefit by having the biggest Social Security benefit possible, then I want to wait up until age 70 and figure out what I use for money in between. Maybe it's a job or a part-time job that's helping. Maybe it's tapping my IRA or 401k. But in some cases, maybe I'm single and I just got a terminal medical diagnosis. Right. I probably want to grab it as soon as I can.
You thank you so much for saying that to kind of wrap. I've had the last 2 weeks, I had clients on both ends, right? I had one that their health just turned. I said, okay, before we leave, you're going to call and we're going to turn this benefit on because, right, the life expectancy has gone way down. And the second one I said, look, if you didn't have a retirement income plan, you'd be freaking out right now because we're going to start spending aggressively out of your IRAs, knowing that in 4 years, we're going to back it way down and crank up the Social Security to the highest. I said, but if you didn't have a plan, you got to be freaking out. And so thank you so much for saying that. It's all about having a plan about what to do today, tomorrow, and in the future. So thank you so much for that. And believe it or not, we are already out of time. So thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge with all of our listeners out there. And folks, if you have questions from today's show, please email them into our office. We'll make sure that we get back to you with some answers and get you taken care of. So Mary Beth, thank you so much. Take care. God bless, and always good to see you.
Thanks, Mike. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Mask free.
Yes. Thank you. All righty.
Bye.
Bye-bye.